This auspicious distinguished personality lecture series of the premier faculty of social sciences of this great university is unique. When I received the invitation to this event and I was holding a briefing session with my team on the presentation, the question came up: how was I identified for this role? Who flagged me and who actually identified me to come and present this paper? We came to the understanding that perhaps some of the things that I thought I was doing quietly over the years in promoting youth empowerment in diverse ways across the country were being monitored, appreciated, and recognized. Hence, the Faculty of Social Sciences decided that I should give this address to share my experiences and contribute to the body of knowledge that will shape public policy in this very important and topical area. I'm therefore very delighted to be here and grateful for the honor of asking me to speak to an esteemed and distinguished audience at this personality lecture series and at a highly reputable university of Abuja, the Unity University. It will probably interest you to know why I accepted the invitation to this event. It is for two reasons. The first one being that I've always cherished the opportunity to actively interact and engage with as well as mentor young people, knowing fully well that they are the ones to inherit our legacies. It should have been a matter of priority to prepare them adequately for the future that lies ahead of them. Also, I consider this as a good platform to share my personal career trajectory with this audience. To the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I had the privilege, the rare privilege actually, of rising to the pinnacle of my career, public service career, as a permanent secretary in Jigawa State, chairman, State Universal Basic Education Board, executive secretary, Jigawa State Scholarship Board, between 1991 to 2011 when I left the state service to the federal service. Coming up here to Abuja, the federal civil service, I rose through the ranks from assistant director, deputy director, director, and permanent secretary, and I retired in 2022 February as permanent secretary, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. I was a one-time lecturer at the NDA Kaduna, teaching civil service and administration. I'm also a commercial farmer. Actually, that's my hobby and that's my career. And I'm also an entrepreneur. Finally, here I am as a parliamentarian, and by way of faith, I'm chairing a development commission that is charged with the responsibility of crafting and drafting a development agenda for Northwest of Nigeria. The second reason actually is closely related to the first, because the theme and the thematic area of youth empowerment and sustainable development in Nigeria is one of the most widely discussed topics and often most conceived subjects in recent times. This is because for every commentator on the subject, there is a different perspective and definition. Again, I've had a close involvement in some activities that promoted and transformed the lives of many youths in Jigawa State when I participated actively in the unprecedented ICT revolution during the nascent years of ICT introduction in Nigerian education system in 1999. Indeed, the second segment of the theme, a guiding template for the Gen Z, is what I found most interesting, as it will afford us the opportunity to discuss the issues that are germane to the sustainable development of the Gen Z, especially in a complex and fast-paced digital world that they live in. I'm not presenting an academic paper. Actually, like I said, I'm going to be speaking to the paper. I'll be sharing my experiences along the way. Now, let us look at the various components of the thematic area to enhance and prepare us for better understanding of the presentation. It is important to mention, of course, the Dean had spoken eloquently about the description of the Gen Z, but I think one very important area that he failed to really discuss is the youth. Who is a youth, and what are the parameters that define who is a youth in Nigeria? To a politician, if you ask him to identify who is a youth, he will probably look at a 50-year-old, vibrant, ebullient politician, call him youth leader. While the World Health Organization and the United Nations ascribes age bracket of between 15 to 24 years for a youth, even though that has not been universally accepted. It is imperative for us to note that conceptual meaning of a youth is subjective and culturally influenced, depending on an individual's socio-cultural and political orientation. In Nigeria, however, for statistical purposes, the official age range for a youth is between 15 to 29 years of age, and the youth account for about 70% of our country's population, which speaks to the critical role of the youth in nation's sustainable development drive. The concept of youth empowerment is also widely discussed and seen from different perspectives. It is also one concept that had fluid definitions. Scholars are, however, agreed that youth empowerment entails giving young people the skills, the tools, and the support they need to take control of their lives. They are meant to make informed decisions and actively participate in their communities and societies. It has a lot to do with not only recognizing but also fostering their potential, encouraging them to have self-esteem and creating the enabling environment for them to shape their own futures. It is again this background that critics have faulted the common practice by some politicians, I'm sorry I'm one of them, of distributing handouts, keke napep, motorcycle to young people in the name of empowerment. I strongly believe that youth empowerment should go far beyond distributing commercial tools to young people if it must effectively contribute to sustainable national development. This is because the youth of today, especially the Gen Z, are competing globally and facing unprecedented challenges. Hence, youth empowerment requires deliberate policy initiatives that will provide the youth with the opportunities to unlock their potential and contribute meaningfully to national development while taking control of their future. It is in this respect that we should be looking at digital literacy skills, skilling, reskilling, and upskilling. These are very vital concepts that perhaps the faculty should do well to provide and create the opportunities. Science and technology education, entrepreneurial skills, and also creative industries are very vital tools. Let me commend the Governor of Zamfara State for his foresight in doing so. Let me go back to history and share with you what we did in Jigawa State between 1999 to 2007. At that time, the Samini Turaki administration introduced the ICT program in Jigawa State. I was part of the policy team as permanent secretary, Ministry of Cabinet Affairs, eventually moving to Ministry for Basic Education and Human Resource Development. Through that initiative, we established what we call, we entered into a franchise agreement with the Informatics Institute of Singapore, where we trained more than 5,000 ICT graduates. A lot of them are professors of ICT, PhD holders. I think at the last count, we have about 40 PhD holders in ICT doing very well globally. So it is for this reason, let me just take advantage of this opportunity to commend former Governor Ibrahim Samini Turaki for his foresight and ICT revolution in Nigeria. Permit me also to speak a little about the Gen Z and how they contribute to sustainable national development. I don't think we have any problem in the concept and the characteristics of the Gen Z. Also, I don't think we have much problem in understanding national development. But however, I think there are so many various descriptions of what development is all about. But generally, we agree that development is multifaceted, multidimensional, and with a lot of parameters that determine development and underdevelopment. I think Walter Rodney spoke well about the parameters and the areas that we should be looking when we're discussing development. However, it is about free press, access to basic health care, access to education, water supply, food on the table for the common man, infrastructure, and also the ability to harness and to use his skill. So in all of this, development is multidimensional and all-encompassing. So I urge you to perhaps go back and go through Walter Rodney, how Europe underdeveloped Africa for better and more concise understanding of development. We also know that the Gen Z are the generation of the millennials, born during the digital revolution, and also we are also agreeable to the age range where the Gen Z belongs. But unfortunately, we don't seem to understand how to deal with the Gen Z, especially with their enormous energy and vibrancy. The world over, nations harness their huge potential and expand their production capacities for the economic benefits of their nation. We need to do the same with the bustling, hyperactive youth population in Nigeria. Undoubtedly, Nigeria is a peculiar nation with a median age of 17 years. Nigeria is one of the youngest populations in the world. We must therefore, in my view, work consciously on channeling the energy, creativity, and vibrancy of our burgeoning youth population into positive ventures and endeavors that will add value to the nation. Take the Japan syndrome, for instance. Must we continue to lament about the Gen Z getting out of the country in search of greener pastures overseas, even when we can't stop them as much as we may try? For me, the answer is no. We shouldn't be lamenting. We should be inventive, creative to know how we can actually organize and formalize the process of the Japan syndrome. We all know that there is no better place than home, no matter what, but the mindset of the Gen Z is different. He must go out there to achieve what he perceives as success. I believe there is nothing wrong in allowing people to pursue their life dreams, especially if we subscribe to the postulation of the Indian economist, philosopher, and Nobel Prize winner Amartya Sen, who postulates that development, and I quote, development is a process of expanding the real freedoms that people enjoy and their ability to live the kind of lives they desire. Perhaps we need to strengthen the institutional frameworks that will register every Nigerian relocating, knowing where they are residing and their professional skills. That way, government can pass a legislation mandating everyone living and working outside the shores of Nigeria to remit money back home formally through financial institutions to contribute to our gross domestic product. We should emulate what other countries are doing in this regard, especially, and I like to make reference to Philippines. In Philippines, they harness the opportunities of their massive population. Actually, in 2024, $38.7 billion was remitted as foreign remittances to the Philippines economy, contributing to about 8.4% to their GDP and about 7.3% to their gross national income. What we lack here in Nigeria is a formal structure and the institutions that will enable us to take advantage of the remittances that are coming back home. Also, we can look at the possibility of creating a national manpower planning agency in the presidency, possibly even in the office of the president, that will be coordinating and interfacing with relevant government agencies, various institutions of higher learning and industries to ensure that our institutions produce graduates that can be absorbed by relevant industries, home and abroad. So for me, I'm not going to be lamenting on Japan syndrome, but I will say formalize it, institutionalize it for national development. My final word in this regard is that opportunities are available for all of you, the Gen Zs in Nigeria. If you skill yourself, reskill yourself, or upskill yourself. I leave you with the quote of an American football coach, Lombardi, who said, "Quitters never win, and winners never quit." Thank you very much.